This has been an absolutely rough week for me. I have been sick all week, and if you want to know how sick I was and how rough my week was, I can tell you that this is only my second cup of coffee in the last 6 days. Yes, I was that sick. In fact, I have been so sick, I've been drinking tea instead of coffee. And this is a good one that I recommend if you're sick. You want to stay away from the coffee for a little bit. Equal exchange spearmint. But I'm done with tea. I'm back to coffee now. But obviously I'm feeling much better now that I am back to drinking coffee, although you can probably still hear it in my voice a little bit, and I still have a little bit of congestion in my sinuses, but that's about it. It was just a head cold that I had, but it hit me really hard for some reason. I guess I'm just getting older. Maybe that's it. But after a week of being sick, I think I am finally on the other side. And usually when I talk about being sick, and since I live out of a minivan, a lot of people tell me that I should treat myself to a hotel room so that I would be comfortable. And I just want to take this opportunity to tell you why getting a hotel room when I'm sick is the last thing I want to do. And I'll give you a little van tour of how my van is set up, because I think it'll show just why I don't want to go to a hotel, why I want to be right here in my own van. So I have a few products that help me be a bit more comfortable here in my minivan, but I think the most important thing is sleep. And so that's why I'm going to start here talking about my bed. I actually built this bed myself in a Home Depot parking lot last year, and it's not a standard size. I built this to kind of maximize my sleeping area while also fitting in the van. So it's about 32 inches wide and about 77 inches long. And that's just enough to keep me comfortable. My feet do hang off just a little bit since it's only 77 inches long, but it's just big enough to keep me comfortable. I am looking into getting a better mattress for it, although the mattress that I have is pretty good. It's just a piece of foam that I bought at a large grocery store chain in the Seattle area. I do have a couple of pads on top of that too, just to make it a little bit more cushy for me. Since I am getting older, I do like to have a little more comfortable bed. The bed I had before was a little bit smaller than this, so when I rebuilt it, I wanted to make sure to just bump out the size a little bit, and that just tiny bit of difference of space has been huge for my comfort. And really, when I'm asleep, I don't really notice the size of the van at all. So that's one of the reasons that when I'm sick especially, I want to be home in my own bed, because I don't know about you, but I have never stayed in a hotel that had a comfortable bed or a comfortable pillow for that matter. And I actually bought a new pillow a couple months ago, and that's very comfortable too. It's a latex pillow, if you want to know. And I am very, very high on the latex pillows. Very unusual pillow, but it's one of those things I'm not going to get at a hotel, but I know I have right here at home. Now, I've been living out of this minivan for over 8 years now, and the smallness of it, I think, is actually an advantage, especially when I'm not feeling well. Usually when I get sick, I get achy and tired, and I just don't want to move around very much. So it's pretty nice that everything is in reach. So if I get hungry, I can easily get into my fridge without even getting up out of bed. Of course, I got my stove set up here permanently, so that means I can get my kettle on and make some tea. Although, like I said, I'm done drinking tea right now. Tea, I think, is for when I'm sick and sick only. So that's why I'm back to drinking coffee. Even though I'm not completely over the little head cold I had, I'm telling myself I'm done with tea. I'm done with being sick. Back to coffee, and I'm on the mends. That's what I'm telling myself. But anyway, talking about how close everything is, if I get a little bit too warm, I can easily reach my vent fan switch right here. I just need to kind of reach a little bit. I do have to kind of sit up to get to that slightly, but I don't have to move much to reach that. So that's another benefit to having just a nice compact space, so I don't have to move around a whole lot, especially when I don't really want to be moving around very much. Now, if I get too cold, I do have to kind of get up and get my heater set up, but I do have a heater permanently in place here. This is at the foot of my bed, and I just keep a bungee cord on it most of the time. And I normally have a cover on this, but I've been using this quite a bit since I've been sick. Been running this all night, even though it hasn't been terribly cold here in the Pacific Northwest where I am currently. I think the lows have been in the mid-50s, but just because I've been sick, I've been running this, and I just run it on low. This is a Olympian Wave 3 propane heater, and I've used one of these for years, and I really do like them. They're a safe heater to make sure that I keep it away from any flammable material. I have it mounted on this TV mount, and that gives me just enough room to keep it up away from my bedding and away from my clothes that are here on the side of the van, and of course away from the ceiling, just so I can run it safely. The one thing that I had a little trouble with in a minivan is just finding a good placement for this, but the TV mount works for this situation, and I have been definitely putting it to good use the last few days. I've been extra chilly having a cold. I guess that's just goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Now, I do have a backup heater, and I have not found that backup heater to be very reliable. I just always go back to this Olympian Wave 3. Yes, it is a propane heater, and yes, I know people have some issues with propane heat, but I think this will be the 7th year I'm running one of these Olympian Wave 3s, and I've just never had any trouble with them. I think that they're kind of perfectly sized for my little minivan here. The one trouble I did have the last couple of nights is that with it only being in the mid-50s outside, this is really too much heat, even on low, for my small space. So what I did to kind of compensate for that is I just opened up my roof vent fan a little bit. Didn't turn the fan on, but I just opened up the vent a little bit, and that just kind of let a little bit of the heat out. That's not something I normally do, but because I'm sick, I just wanted to make sure that I stayed warm enough. Especially when I had that sore throat, it was kind of hard to breathe in even that 50-degree cool air. So that was one of the little things I did just to help. And this is another thing that I think about. I have never been in a hotel room that had good heating and ventilation. For some reason, they seem to either just roast me out or they're too cold, and I can't ever seem to get the controls set correctly. So there's another reason why I would rather just stay in my space, that I know how to just compensate for all the little issues and make sure that I stay either warm enough or cool enough. It's just easy. I have everything dialed in here because this is my home. Now, there are some times where I want a little bit more heat, but the air temperature is not really cold enough that I need to turn my heater on. And so for those times, I have turned to these USB-powered heating pads. And there's a lot of these available. I bought this one years ago on Amazon, and I wasn't quite sure about the quality of it, but it's held up and it's worked really well. And I have really come to rely on this. I did have some sinus headaches going on this whole past week, so I was using this almost every night. And I was actually using a second one. That's right, I bought a second one because I found these USB heating pads to be so effective for so many things. I went to Walmart and bought another one. I bought this one maybe last year or so, and this held up pretty well. I thought it might be a little bit better quality than the Amazon one, but they seem to be about the same. This Sunbeam one that I bought from Walmart does have a USB-C plug versus just the old style USB-A plug. So I do like this one a little bit better. It just works a little bit better for me. It's odd, the Amazon cheap no-name brand one does get a little bit hotter than the Sunbeam one, which is kind of surprising, but it does have a much smaller heating area, so maybe that's why. But these have been really useful, and that's why I bought a second one, just because I don't ever want to be without one of these. I do still have and use occasionally a hot water bottle, but I find them to be a little bit fiddly to have to boil water and fill them up. That whole process, especially when I'm sick, I just don't want to deal with that. Just much easier to plug in a heating pad and hit the button and have it heat right away. So I've been using these more than the hot water bottle these days. And I use these also to heat up the foot of my bed, just because I always have cold feet. So sometimes I just do that, and I know that I've got a nice warm bed to get into on a chilly night. So really, really useful little tools, and I do highly recommend them. Now, I know what you're going to say here. You're going to say, but Scott, when you're sick, don't you need a toilet more often? And yes, probably, but I've always had a toilet in my van. It was actually the first thing I built for my van. Even before I was living out of this van, I actually built a toilet. And don't worry, we're not going to get too in detail about the toilet. I'm not going to show you the toilet. I found out years ago that people don't like toilet talk. I don't know why that is. So I don't show the toilet. I don't talk about it very often, but it's right down here underneath me here. I stow it under my bed here, and it's very easy for me to just pull it out. And I have it here because this is the kind of largest open area that I have. So it's kind of the easiest place for me to use it. Although if I'm out in the woods or something, I'm just going to go outside, to be honest. But there I said I wasn't going to get too into toilet talk, and then I just did. So sorry, probably a number of people clicked away. But those of you that have not and haven't been totally disgusted, yeah, I've always had a toilet, and it's very easy for me to get to. It's not an issue whatsoever. And, that gets into one other thing that I've really found about hotel rooms, and that's the cleanliness. I am not a clean freak at all. In fact, I'm probably quite the opposite. There's times where I just don't keep the van very clean, but it's all my own dirt, so it doesn't bother me quite so much. But I have never been in a hotel room that I felt was clean, even expensive ones. They've always just seemed kind of dirty. And if I were to go into a hotel room, I would want to just check it over first. I mean, one thing I would do before I even took anything into the room is I would check for bed bugs. And that's been an issue for years now. And then I would probably just want to spritz up and clean up the bathroom a little bit, even though you might be able to tell it's not terribly clean in here. But again, this is all my dirt. I'm the source of this dirt. And so it doesn't bother me quite so much as some unknown something that I'm going to find in a hotel or motel somewhere. So that's another reason why I don't like to get a hotel or motel. And to be honest, I haven't had a hotel or motel since I've moved into the van. It's just not something that's in my budget, and it's just not something that I'm ever comfortable doing. And the other thing is I don't want to try to get my stuff together and to drag it up across to parking lots and maybe in an elevator and down a hall and try to find where the room is. And what if I forgot something? I got to go back to the van and get it. To me, it just seems like a real big waste of time when I'm comfortable in my space. I mean, this is my home after all, and it has been my home for now over 8.5 years. So it's really why I don't ever want to get a hotel when I'm sick. Especially when I'm sick, because when I'm sick, I just want to be in my space with my dirt and my stuff close at hand. I don't want to shell out money for a hotel. No, thank you. So I did build this van out for me, and I put a lot of thought and effort into making sure that it was the right build for me. And I've always said that if I ever do another van build, and I hope I get the opportunity to do another van build in the future, but you never know. But if I get another opportunity, I would probably do a simpler build than this. But I still stand by the fact that I think to be ultimately comfortable, you do have to have your van set up for you. So some things that I knew right off the bat was that I wanted a bed that was set up all the time. I knew that I wanted a sink with running water, and I also knew that I wanted a stove that was set up all the time. I didn't want to have to fuss with things. One other little thing, and this might seem minor, but I actually like being able to get into my fridge really easily. So it's right here. There's nothing in the way. If I want to get into it, it's just right there. I don't have to move it. I don't have to move anything off the top of it. It just is there, and it's ready for me to use. And that was all part of the design process. And there's been some changes over the years, but the basic layout, I think, has always worked really well for me. So if I ever do get a chance to do another van build, hopefully, because I'm having some trouble with this van, lots of trouble with this van, but If I ever do another van build, I'd probably keep the same layout. It just really works well for me. I do think the bigger issue, though, is not really if somebody can be comfortable in a minivan. And that's not really a question that I can answer for anybody but me. And I am very comfortable in a minivan. I've talked about this ad nauseum, that a minivan is the perfect vehicle to live out of. I don't want a full-size van. It's too much space. When I'm feeling good, I want to be outside. And so normally I'm outside moving around, and that's what I want most of the time. But when I do get sick occasionally, the van is set up well enough that I can be comfortable in it. The bigger issue for a nomad, if somebody's moving around like I am, is if you get sick, sometimes you're in a spot where you just don't know anybody. And it can feel a little bit daunting at times if you get really sick. I got really sick a couple of years ago, and I didn't know anybody around the area that I was in at the time. So I was just kind of on my own. Now, luckily, at the moment, I have a friend that is traveling in the same area that I'm in, and she's been checking in on me. She's been texting me. I keep telling her, don't get near my van. I don't want to get you sick. But today, since I was feeling a little bit better, she came over and we chatted a little bit at a distance, but we got to chat a little bit. And she actually gave me some coconut water, which was really nice because I was feeling like I was getting to be a little bit dehydrated. And yes, I know I'm drinking coffee and feeling dehydrated, but the coconut water is going to take care of it for me. It's the thing that I kind of rely on. And I only had one can of coconut water, so it was pretty nice that she gave me one, a little savior there. But I think that's kind of the bigger issue. Sometimes we get into places that we just don't know anybody around, and it can maybe feel kind of scary if we get really sick. Now, I didn't get very sick with this little head cold. It was just a really minor head cold. I had much worse problem with a headache and sinus headache for some reason with this cold. The sore throat and the runny nose and all weren't really much to speak of, but the headache was really something. That was probably maybe because I wasn't eating enough and maybe I wasn't drinking enough, but I'm getting on that. And now that my coffee is almost done, I think I'm going to get on that again. I think I'm going to turn back to the coconut water and make myself a little bit of dinner. And I'm going to cross my fingers that tomorrow I'm going to feel much better and I can get back to being outside. Maybe if my friend's still in town, we can walk around and hike around because that's the way she does van life too. So we like to be outside as much as possible. So I'm just going to hope that tomorrow everything's going to be mostly back to normal. And that's about it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it.